Hi, my name is Caitlin, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the Gideon versus Wainwright court case. I'm going to be giving you the background and the details of the case first, and then we're going to analyze the specifics of the case, talking about the majority opinion rationale, the concurring opinions, and the dissenting opinions, and then the constitutional question. All right, let's start with the background. So this case involved Clarence Earl Gideon. He was allegedly charged with stealing from a pool hall in Panama City, Florida in June 1961. A witness presumably saw Gideon at the pool house. However, no one actually witnessed the actual crime. Gideon did not have an attorney, so he fought for himself throughout his trial. He cross-examined witnesses and spoke on his behalf. But in the end, the jury found him to be guilty and sentenced him to 5 years in prison. Gideon did not give up, however, and he petitioned for a right of habeas corpus from the Florida Supreme Court. His argument was that he had not had access to an attorney, and that was why he lost the case. The Florida Supreme Court ended up arriving to the same verdict as the lower court, so then Gideon petitioned the U.S. Supreme Court, and the U.S. Supreme Court decided to hear the case. By the time Gideon's case arrived to the U.S. Supreme Court, they had already had multiple cases like Gideon's concerning the right to a counsel. In the Powell v. Alabama case, it was ruled that the convicted were entitled to a counsel, but in the Betts v. Brady case, the court ruled that assigned counsel was not required in felony cases, only when there were very, very special circumstances. Abe Fortas represented Gideon as his attorney, and at the Supreme Court hearing, and he argued that Gideon only had an 8th grade education, so this was a special case where the defendant should be allowed the right to a counsel. Fortas also argued that no matter the health, education, race, etc., the person being charged should be allowed the right to an attorney. 2 months passed, and finally the court ruled that denying the right of an attorney or counsel to anyone would be violating the 14th Amendment, which guarantees due process. Gideon was granted another trial with a lawyer and was acquitted of all convictions, and the Supreme Court also overturned the decision on the Betts v. Brady case. So in the end, in 1963, it became a rule that a defendant in a felony trial must be provided a lawyer free of charge if the defendant cannot afford one. So now when people get arrested, they are read their rights, and one of their rights is that they can have an attorney. Gideon's trial obviously helped a ton of people and helped improve the court systems because of this final decision of felons being able to have the right to an attorney at all times. So now let's examine this case a little bit more closely, looking at the majority opinion and rationale. The majority opinion and rationale was that the decision was unanimous, and the Sixth Amendment, the right to a counsel, is a fundamental right essential to a fair trial and applies to the due process of law from the 14th Amendment. Like I said, in 1963, it became a rule that a defendant in a felony trial must be provided a lawyer free of charge if the defendant cannot afford one. Justice Black wrote this majority opinion and announced it March 18, 1963. There were some concurring opinions by Justice Harlan, Clark, and Douglas. Justice Harlan stated that he believed that the Betts v. Brady case should be overruled, and the statement agrees with the facts of the Gideon v. Wainwright case because both dealt with not having the correct counsel for a felon. Justice Clark agreed that anyone has the right to a counsel because of the 6th and 14th Amendment. Justice Douglas said that the Bill of Rights and the first section of the 14th Amendment are pertinent to this case and they need to be followed. There were no really dissenting opinions in this case. However, the local Florida court and the U.S. Florida Supreme Court convicted Gideon of the crime, so they were not taking into account that he did not have a counsel or an attorney. The constitutional question at hand is that do all defendants and felons have the right to a counsel? Which means they were questioning if everyone convicted of a crime had the right to an attorney or a lawyer. This case had to do with the 14th Amendment, and which forbidden states to deny or interfere with the basic rights of citizenship or any other persons. So the 14th Amendment led to the 6th Amendment, which allowed people to have a right to an attorney or lawyer. They went hand in hand, and now people obviously have the right to an attorney or lawyer anytime they are convicted, which helps them in their case greatly because attorneys and lawyers can help them not be convicted of the crime and prove them to be not guilty, and also help them with all the struggles that come with a court trial. And that is the Gideon versus Wainwright court trial. Thank you.